I'm talking to you after the first full day of production in London for the Mid-Wales opera Madame Butterfly, which opens in Theatre Havern at the beginning of September and then goes out on a tour right around Wales and England. And exciting times to be able to bring this great piece to audiences, some of whom will have seen it, some of whom won't have seen it. It's one of the great heart-rending stories of opera. Some consider it to be Puccini's finest. I think I wouldn't want to argue against that. There are some other contenders, but this is a wonderfully imaginative piece with the composer really, I think, at the absolute height of his powers. His music developed through the previous operas, and the psychology and the sense of drama that he brings to this is perhaps he never equalled. I think it's starting to come together to produce a theatrical experience second to none, and that, I use my words carefully because that is what Puccini wanted. He was a theatrical composer if he was anything. His works can even work without the music. The music adds immensely, of course it does, but he could only really write when the theatrical muse came to him.
I think one of the problems with a very famous opera like Butterfly is that people who do know it very well and have seen it many times. It was in America the most performed opera for many, many years, ahead of Traviata, Bohème, Carmen. And when these same pieces come round and round, the challenge for a director and a designer is how can we keep the integrity of what the original creators wanted and yet still find something fresh and relevant for a modern audience. And that is the great conundrum when you are doing these productions, to try and find that sweet spot between something that respects the original and yet is not so far off the wall like you get in some European houses or continental houses where they do, very, very kind of wacky conceptual productions where, production of Butterfly might be set in a pond of custard or on roller skates or something. So we have to find that medium ground, of course, and everyone's view of where that sweet spot is a little bit different. But I wanted to keep very much to the original location of the story, which is Nagasaki in Japan, but to update it to the 1960s, which was it was a time of the emergence of women's rights, and it was also a time of great optimism. And I wanted to sort of embrace that in a story, but also to have the nostalgia of the 1960s, which I think is rather important to the story. The actual original story but the actual real story of Butterfly happened about 20 years or so before Puccini actually turned it into an opera. So there is a sort of nostalgic element to it, which I wanted to embrace. But it is very hard to make these same pieces fresh, but what one always has is the music, and it doesn't matter how many times you listen to it. I always hear something new. I hear something different each day in rehearsal. I hear a note or a phrase or a harmonic structure that catches me by surprise and gives me an idea. And of course, the other thing that you have is you have singers, young singers in our case, who also have their own instincts and are unencumbered by tradition or a traditional way of singing or playing a role. So that is wonderfully liberating.